is what they're asking us for funding so that they can be open from
12 to 4
4 on Saturdays.
on
So that they
Saturday.
can provide programs.
So which, I just know that she applied for
That's done.
That's
she tagged.
That's done.
Yeah,
That's
that's
not-
done.
That's basketball.
And that was on my, as a yes for sure.
Yes.
Anybody have any reservations about that project? Other than that, unfortunately?
Zero.
Zero reservations.
Okay, great.
Has anybody seen that program? Because I've seen it.
That
No, I haven't
sounded
seen it.
so good.
I've been in the Boys and Girls Club. I've watched her travel with the kids. And I'm so impressed on the way she just handles things. She's very good.
And she gave a great presentation here, so I feel really confident.
Yeah.
I guess the only question I have is just the one that comes up on all of them for me, which is that a new activity? Or is it, because that's where I'm confused about whether something is a
I'm
new
sorry.
activity or an expanded
For which one I walked
program.
out? Point God.
Well, I.
Oh, she's new.
Oh, that's
It's a
new.
brand new project.
That's a brand new
It's not
project,
been
okay.
funded. And I think that, I was really impressed with everything that she had to say and the program, and I think it'll be very well received.
I thought it was a
in the
strong
community.
application.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we set that one aside and just say, okay, that's a go?
I'm gonna highlight, that's what.
And then we can come back and talk about money, depending upon how many we say yes to, then we go back through and
Okay.
talk about that. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yeah,
Sure.
that one.
Okay.
Point God, the only one that you guys all agreed on so far.
So
So
far,
far, yes.
We just talked about one.
I mean, Jeannie, did you have any other projects that you were affirmative that were really of value, particularly for Midtown?
Well, for the Midtown, I investigated, which I've known Joanne. I mean, sorry, I keep calling Joanne. Teresa. And I always thought that there was limits, on how many years and stuff like that. And I think that we should really collaborate on, do we want to put limits on it? Because she's been here and she is dealing with the kids. I went down there to see. And I'm going to say yes for that one. I'm going to be honest with you, I wasn't going to say yes. Sorry, Teresa. But I wasn't going to say yes because she's been a long time coming here and stuff like that. But it was kind of like, we got to give other people a chance. And I'm just being honest and open. I don't want to, but
That's kind of my concern, is that, I mean, this, and it's a wonderful program. I don't, but the reality is, the funding, as I understand it, it's really intended as a mechanism to get programs off the ground.
right.
And not as sort of a line item, like a continuing budget line.
And I agree.
And
There's a
that's
lot of
my
that.
concern,
But the
because,
thing, the kids are changing. That every year is a different set of children.
But that's
So-
true for all these.
Yeah,
programs.
Yeah.
It's a different set of children, but how do we can, this is the way I looked at it, if I'm gonna stand on it, it's, to me, a yes for this year, but I think we should direct maybe next year and let Teresa then get out on her own and help her with other grants and stuff like that. That's my opinion only, but I do stand with that, and I believe like other people have. We're not, Bank of America, but I do believe in this program. I've been there, I've seen, and I see that people that she does deal with, a lot of them come from broken homes, and, we get tired of hearing that because we have a lot of broken homes in Kingston. But the bottom line is that, a kid can read, and they know how to write, and they know punctuation and grammar. I was tossed on this one, but I'm going to personally stand firm on those two.
A question that I have that I think might be useful for us, if you don't mind taking a little time to aside for it, is how do we define an expanded program?
Right, that
Because
was
we
my
have, we
question
have two
too.
criteria, new programs, that's easy. We can very quickly discern who we can consider based on new programs. The second is expanded. So do we think expanded means larger population? Or is expanded an innovation in existing programming?
Or a different population?
A different population than previously, and by different, not necessarily meaning same age group but different kids, but actually like different outreach towards a different group.
Correct, okay.
So if we want to umbrella all this, but if we can have some kind of consensus, I think it also might help us as we wade through, because I have a hard time, like, looking through these programs, it is hard to say that any program is undeserving of
Yes.
funding.
Right.
They serve the
They're all
community, they are incredible, but if we're looking at, well, what are the ways in which we can all have sort of like some consensus, you know? What are common definitions that we can then also pass on for future years, because this is the same conversation that we have year after year in terms of expanded. And I also
Okay.
think it will help future applicants as they think about, okay, same organization that wants to apply, how are they going to have to approach seeking funding? And what programs will qualify for this or not?
So it could be the same, what I'm hearing you say, it could be the same program that they have to evolve it, maybe?
Yeah.
So,
The
yeah, so
evolution of the program.
An
in terms
evolution of the program.
of
so
it's
that-
Yeah, so it's expanding to other groups or, right, as you were
Because I
saying,
know
just as
that-
you were saying.
Yeah, so
Okay.
is it expanded numbers? Do we want to, I put this
Yeah,
as
I
a
don't know.
question.
Right.
Expanded numbers, does that feel like an expansion of the
I do.
program?
Right, but even, so for example, if we use that as an example,
Yeah,
the food assistance for immigrants, that was like a huge expansion in numbers, but not necessarily a huge, they're basically not expanding the program.
If there's no new population,
Right, that's right.
so so again, like, this is good, like, okay, so do we think that it needs to be a combination? That it has to be expanded numbers? Or, you know, and expanded population or expanded population? Like, you know, like, what, again, just like figuring out what we want to use. Do you have a feeling about what expanded program means to you?
I think.
And I would say, these are guidelines that are set by HUD, right? And what, do they have a definition
No,
for?
they say that it has to be significantly expanded, but they also say that we follow the policy that we put in place. So what they do say is, telling us you're gonna do 10 more people, that's not a significant expansion. If you tell
Okay.
us you're doing 25 to 50 more people, that's a significant expansion.
Okay, well, that helps.
That helps a lot.
Yeah, okay.
Is it possible to also, say, put like a threshold? Okay, so this is a program that we have been helping get off the ground for X number of years. And, so
Yeah,
maybe you say 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Or-
supposed to be seed money. So
Yeah.
some of these programs have been coming here since 2006.
Yeah.
2012. So
Yeah.
they're, it's not seed money to them, it's,
It's a budget line.
Right,
Which is, again, we want to emphasize that these are all incredible programs and incredible contributions to the city, but we might not be the best source of funding for them, given the constraints of, we have $97,000, which is
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
So, and, I think also if we were to come up with a criteria of X number of years or X,
Yes.
percentage of an increase in population, then it's fair for the recipients who are coming here, knowing exactly what to expect.
I would agree with that. Yeah, because then people wouldn't waste their time applying if they'd already been applying for a certain number of years and
And
they're not
this is,
planning to.
and this is an involved application. This is,
Yes,
You know,
very
really involved. So,
And
like,
meetings, yes.
yeah,
So, does anybody have any ideas on, like, maybe a 25% increase?
I'm seeing the same.
So a 25% increase, and would we want to have some sort of like a time threshold as well, in terms of the same project. I'm gonna use the example of the city of Kingston, and it's not gonna earn me any friends with the administration. But this is the exact same program that has been going on since the beginning of time.
I was thinking the same thing.
And, you know, it
It's
is,
a great program,
it's
but-
wonderful. It's a great program. But to somehow suggest that the program is expanding or serving a new population, it's not doing any of those things. And I also think, given the restructuring of how our HUD grant is working, in that if you look at the total allocation of $650,000, the vast majority of it is going into the city of Kingston projects. So given that there's $97,000 to serve the community, I don't know if this is the best use of CDBG funds. It's certainly longer than 3 years, because it's been going on since, you know, at least 2011. I can say that with
I saw that
assurance.
too, yeah. No,
You're talking about something.
City.
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
And I can't say that they've increased their population by 25% year over year, or even. Yeah.
The one, when I seen this on, the computer. The horse program compared to children reading. And I'm a horseman, I trained with horses for 25 years. You know, I don't see that program. I don't, and it might be, I'm not popular for saying this, but I do know, and I understand that it's a psychological thing, but there's so many, you know, I just find that's me.
No, but I would say my question
not
about it
for
was they didn't, one of the requirements was that you had a site, you know, site location, and they don't have a site.
She
No.
did- well,
She's
she's
at
Barnum.
She's right there.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Do
She's
you have a
right
site?
there.
That-
Yes, I sent a statement. I wasn't able to make the 27th meeting because I was doing a program over at Kingston Radio for Black History Month. So I sent a statement that Amanda said was read,
Yes.
and that addressed that we have locked into a location.
So I guess one question that I would have is, we funded the program like through the YMCA in the past. And it sounds like it was well received and popular. What is like your long-term strategy for funding this program? What is the strategy for the organization? I mean, is this a project, do you envision doing this year after year, or is this a 1 year program, or how do you see?
No, I mean, I would like to see, it's actually was very helpful to just listen to the conversation for the last 5 or 10 minutes to, me being in the boat of other organizations. And, we're presenting programs that some of which are ongoing and others which have a slightly different angle. I discussed what I feel are the major differences between the YMCA program and how this would be different. And I totally get and would appreciate, specific guidelines, it's not really the right word, but criteria that, if you say, okay, listen, this is going to be your second year asking for this. After 1 more year, unless it changes, unless there's the 25% increase or whatever, I totally get that. I think that's more than fair. And that makes a lot of sense. Again, this is really just my second year asking. There was one before COVID, but that was a different sort of program. We were really just getting off the ground. And yeah, that was $1,800. So I don't know if that answered your question, but, obviously I have private donors and, that's a big part of being a small non-for-profit is working on grants and sustainability, and being able to charge for programs at a fair market rate when we can. sliding scale, all of those kinds of things that are in our business plan.
Now, is the summer equine program?
Equine, yeah.
Equine, that's free or there is a charge associated with it?
If the grant would cover so that it could be free,
Okay.
that's how, that's the reason that I'm applying for it.
And what do the children in the long run that you did this 1 year, am I correct?
It's different than the YMCA program, though. What I'm proposing here is different than the YMCA program, so.
What is the outcome of the children? Like, do you have anybody so interested with what's, riding a horse, or petting a horse, or even getting close to a horse? What is the outcome of the kids?
Well, I've built relationships now. We do a weekly program at the Hodge Center here in Kingston, and that's been going on now for a couple of years. That actually grew out of the YMCA program, which was great to have that site. And so now we are working with kids, at-risk kids, through Ulster County Mental Health. There are kids that responded positively to being around the animals. There are internships. We work with colleges for internships. We teach them about, professions in
Right,
horse
it's
world.
very
Yeah, so I'm just not sure what you mean about
I'm
outcomes.
understanding how many kids are you expecting that's gonna go either into the horse business or be stable enough? Like, to me, it's always the outcome. What's gonna be the outcome of this? You're traveling around with a horse that is greatly, has to be insured. The insurance gotta be sky high. And, like, you're going to the Hodge, you're going here, you're going there, but what's the outcome? What's the intent?
I think the impact on the kids' lives.
And how many kids are involved in the program?
At the Hodge Center, we do, or should we still focus on the grant? I mean, for this particular program, I'm talking about having, like 9 to 9 kids, I think is what I wrote the grant for.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's not big numbers. I mean, we did it more at the YMCA, that's the big difference. At the YMCA, it more was just, get to know the horses, the kids look forward to that. It was a glorified, what we call in the business, a glorified pony ride, that kind of thing. And I feel, because that's not what my organization is about, that that's not as satisfying and not as effective long term.
Right.
Which is probably some of the things you're describing. So this would be this would be the program that I offer, to all of the students, or all of the kids in the surrounding areas. And I do a program down in Rockland and whatever. This is something that I offer, to anyone. And what we've determined is that it's been very difficult because I literally was giving away these spots to the Midtown kids in Kingston, and they couldn't come, couldn't do it if it was, they had to be driven there. And so I wanted them to have the same immersive, intimate experience. And then I think there's sort of hope of things developing. And a big piece, and I won't take up too much time, I appreciate you guys are talking to me, and you're welcome to, I'm trying to consult me. A big piece that I wanted to do this year was to offer them the experience of going to the fair, to be able to be trained to actually participate in the horse shows. And I thought that that was something incredible. I'm obviously involved in councils and, in leadership roles in some of those circles. And, not only any of the kids, and, we're really just losing that whole generation of people that are spending the summer kind of preparing for the fair. And so when I, talked to them about making that a portion of my city programming, what I call my urban center, they love that. And I think that that would be very well supported, not only at the Ulster County Fair, but also at the Dutchess County Fair. So that was a big offering that I was hoping to expose kids to as well.
So I was going to say, I guess for me, given that we have so little money, I'm trying to look at programs that reach potentially more people, and are, because this is a grant program about public benefit.
Right.
And I see
So-
that she has a lot of support. I mean, you could always use more support. So like that.
So I think kids love horses, and I think it really, you're right, it allows them to really connect in an emotional way and brings out, good in kids. They're very healing. Right. Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that it's a small group, that when we have all these other applications that have sort of a broader range of people who are participating, I think we have to look at, that's my one hesitation. But
Do you have some projects? I'm sorry.
You might be saying the same thing as go for it.
Do you have projects that are on your list of do support? Rather than, let's start with where there's common agreement.
Yeah.
I actually sort of like the Weekend Warriors program because again, I think Saturdays, again, I'm sort of new to this and I don't really know that area of town, but I know that to have a place where kids can go on Saturdays that also is open to other community groups, which is something that they stress, would be a good thing, whether it's fully funded or not. I think that I saw the need, let's put it that way.
I have that on my due funds list, but I also have a check mark next to it because this is another organization we fund with great frequency. And
Right.
I mean, and I think that I love the idea that they're now expanding to Saturdays because I think will be a benefit to have that. There's little to nothing. And especially now they got rid of the high school program where they have the Friday night lights thing, which, so, I don't know.
It feels like it qualifies for expanded. Like
Yeah,
it
that's what I
feels
thought
like
too.
it's a true expanded program that will really benefit kids.
So can we all agree
And it's
on,
something that doesn't exist at the present time.
Yes, yeah, and I'm also 100% behind it because it reaches young adults 18 to 24, and it's the only program in Kingston for that age range, and that is
Okay.
really critical.
great.
Okay,
I think we're in agreement
so we have,
on that
three.
project. We have,
we didn't necessarily. Yeah, so we have the basketball program and the Weekend Warriors at this point.
okay. Any other projects that are sort of really important for you?
Well, actually, a lot of them are, but one thing I will say is that the Center for Photography at Woodstock, I have to sort of step back and not participate in deliberations on that because I have an affiliation with them.
Okay.
So I didn't want to have a, perceived conflict of interest, so.
That was on my due fund list because I, living in Midtown Kingston, there's a huge immigrant population and especially for young girls to be able to be seen and to tell their stories, I think it's a really powerful, life-changing experience.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm on board for it. It's also new.
It's also new. Jeannie, did you?
I'm good.
All right, are we good for photography?
Yes.
All right. My other, and I never would have thought that I would be such a strong advocate because I had to actually research what this was all about, but the Center for Holographic Arts was also really intriguing because it is a cutting edge technology. And that is something that could, open up doors to a much wider world for.
And provide really interesting skills for a group of people. And those are skills that are really needed out there in the world so they could potentially get employment with the kinds of skills they can develop.
And is there anyone that has concerns on or questions or
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
are we good for the holographic arts?
Hey, Mandy?
Yeah,
Okay, can you hear me?
yep.
Yes,
Okay, I was on the line with Kyle for quite a while, but I'm just kind of bouncing back and, trying to get back into it. So yeah, the holographic art, I mean, that was new to me too. It's kind of, really a new field. But it really seems like it's directing kids, towards career opportunities. I mean, maybe it's not something big right now, but I think, it's certainly going to get bigger and bigger. I think things like this are really, really good, give some kids some direction. So, I really like that program. I wasn't quite sure when I first got it, but, after hearing what it's all about, I was convinced.
Okay.
Everybody's on board with that one?
Yes.
Okay.
So the only other project that for me, I wanted to see support for was the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network and their food assistance. But I also have concerns because of the fact that it is, I mean, the need is never going to end. And we can't be committed to funding this every single year.
How many years has it been?
It was definitely last year.
We started with COVID,
Yeah.
so 2020, going forward.
And it's had a pretty significant increases every single year is the thing. And right now, I mean, just hearing in the last meeting, like hearing the increase of families is like, it blows through the 25% just fine. Like,
Right. Yeah, I mean, they're used to service families every week and now they have to alternate it.
And
Yeah, they're really doing it a lot. I just, I'm for it. I don't think 2020 is such a long time. There's just an article in the Times Union about them, the good work that they're doing, just how the population really is increasing here in Kingston.
Oh, it
and more than
absolutely
at
is.
a lot of places in the United States.
I'm good with it. Maybe we could scale it down a little bit, but I can go with it because we also have Salvation Army, People's Place. There's a lot of places to eat in, sorry, that's probably.
It's that population.
But I know, I work with them, so I know exactly. And I think they're a wonderful organization. There's nothing I have negative. I just think that we also have a lot of, like everybody feeds people. And I think it's a wonderful thing that we can do that in the city of Kingston. I am on board. I'm a cook for the people, and I love this program. I don't have, I'm concerned about the money's not being.
I think at the moment where you guys are just choosing which ones that you would like to fund,
Yeah.
and then go back and do that. And Steve, how do you feel about it? Sound like yes to me.
Yeah. I hear consent.
I think it's
He'll go back and tell us.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna be really important for this organization that they understand that this cannot be conceived as something that we can do every year. I mean, our grant is getting smaller and smaller.
Yes.
And it also makes it hard then to fund new programs like the Center for Holographic Arts, like the photography program, when, I
love that we're meeting the needs. That's the good part.
Yeah.
So I think we'll go there.
So that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yeah. Now, if we were to fund these fully, Mandy, what would be the balance left over? I was playing around with this at my office.
Good. Great. Okay.
So now there's $17,170.
Can I request a movie?
Question. Teresa? About how much has been the increase between last year and this year in terms of the population that you serve?
We're gonna double in what we had last year because we were still kind of antsy about the COVID and all the kids being together.
Okay.
So we're, the health department allows us to have 110 kids.
Okay.
So with COVID, we have been down to like 40, kids to be safe, spaced out safely. But, this year, like right now,
You're back.
we're gonna go back up and to expand what we did before, we were at, the Center for Creative Education and also down at the Roundout. And I plan to be at the Hot Center. So Read and Write program was, and yeah,
Okay.
but end up in 2 different locations.
And if I remember right, last year you Read and Write did not apply, is that correct?
No, Read and Write
Or
did,
apply?
well, Read and Write, I was sick for like 4 months,
Got it.
so I couldn't come out and fight
Okay,
for
got it.
the program, and I did, I mean, I had the flu and COVID right back to back. So I didn't even have energy, I don't even know how I got the application in. If I shut that thing,
Got it.
I was back into NyQuil. But,
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to check in on that.
Yeah, they were funded basically from 2012 forward.
2012?
what was 2012? Read and Write?
Yeah.
But, when it was Read and Write before, we would always Read and Write.
Yeah.
But we were getting funding through other 501c.
Yeah.
And Read and Write received our own in like 2016. And that's when I started learning how to do it. So it wasn't me per se, it was other 501c.
Wasn't it run through the church?
Oh,
Prior
New
to,
Progressive,
Yeah.
yes, they're 50,
yeah,
yeah, because I was asking people for a long time to help me figure out how to do it. We
I
went through the
remember-
library, it was through the Friends of the Library, it was through sport, it was through,
Yeah.
you know,
Different umbrellas.
different umbrellas. But now, the program has changed over these
Yeah.
years. It's always poor, like if I showed you the pictures from today,
Yeah.
the kids, you would see them sitting and reading and everything. For this summertime, I'm hoping to get the horses. I talked to Star about that, so she volunteers there. And also, we're gonna be doing holographic art with the kids. And also, the other art program with the printer, with the 3D. So they'll be making, doing poetry, doing their own poems, and then having them put up t-shirts, their own t-shirts. So although we have our core Read and Write, it's always like changing, and we're not trying to get, money for that. But so I try to meet the criteria because it's changed over the years. It wasn't that you couldn't get it for a certain amount of time, 3 years,
Yeah, that's-
whatever. It was the need. Like if that program is a program in the city of Kingston that really met the needs of the community, which not only does the program is not just working with the little kids. We have the junior staff, like we have like 8 junior staff right now working with those kids and our adults. And we have our seniors that come in, they volunteer. So we work with everybody.
Are you finding that kids in your program are still lagging behind because of the COVID times?
Yes, it's so bad. It's so bad. I was working with a 4th grader today, and I had to keep asking, what grade are you in? What grade? And I thought, a little chapter book, an easy one, and it was still too hard. And that's what even the schools are saying. They sent notice home to the parents that I read to my whole staff saying that because of COVID, even the kids that were behind before, even the newer kids, they missed, like the kindergartners that are now in second and third, they missed because they didn't have that one-on-one or that classroom thing. And then it's real. If you came and you said you would be very upset, like very upset to see like a seventh grader that can't.
Yeah, no, I'm an educational advocate, so I've seen it.
Yeah, so, I know your concern.
Are you, like, what is your plan long-term to make this, because it's a great program and it can't go away, but
Right,
it can't be funded
I
through
understand,
HUD.
I understand that, and
So-
every time, there's a person that says, we'll help you, you know, with funding, because this is all new to me, like I said, we were always under other people's umbrellas. So now it's me that have to figure out and work with the kids and try to figure out grants and everything that is available to us. So, you know, they say it will help you get funding, but meanwhile, when all the kids come in and there's no staff.
Do you have a permanent place except for Mount Lebanon?
No, we're gonna be up around.
You still-
Yeah, we're gonna be up around now. It's the greatest because there's nothing in the Roundout area,
Right.
you know, for the kids.
That's why when I'm down there.
Yeah, yeah, and that's walking distance, and plus it has that basketball court, it has a yard, and we're close to walking distance to the park. And it's a lot of walking distance, we can walk to the African Roots Library, we take the bus up to the Y, take them swimming, so it's like Roundout is the. Yeah, and please come down. I keep saying that, please come down. You say you work in the school?
Yeah, well, I'm outside. Out of
Oh, okay.
Some special ed.
Oh, I need to talk to
Okay.
Do we have any other programs that are in that neighborhood? I mean, if we're thinking about certain neighborhoods, because we have a number of these programs that we're talking about funding are based in Midtown.
Yeah, right, and I
So
don't,
that was just my question. Yeah.
right, so the after school program for the city.
How
And
does everybody feel about the bike up safety? Because that's something that I noticed. Just, you know, and
I feel like that it doesn't, it feels very familiar in terms of the program.
oh, okay.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah,
it
that's
seems
fine.
like a great program, but they've been doing it
Yeah, that's right.
pretty frequently.
I didn't know too much about it.
I think they're definitely 3 years in, maybe 4.
yeah, I mean, it's just like everything, it's an outstanding program and
Yes.
it's providing really critical skills, safety skills to the kids.
Steve? Steve, are you there? He keeps coming back.
Oh, he's here.
Sorry. I didn't want to ignore you. You can't see everybody, but they're going around the table, and they're asking, or they're telling everybody else how they feel about a specific or, something they feel strongly about. Do you have anything you feel strongly about other than what they've discussed? And they all agree that the Boys and Girls Club, Center for Holographic Arts, Center for Photography at Woodstock, Point God Academy, and Ulster Immigrant are at the top of the list at the moment.
I agree with them. I agree with them. Hello?
Yes, Mohammed, hold on a second, Mohammed. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Steve.
the Boys and Girls Club was number one on my list, so that's, that was my main one. The rest I'm good with.
Okay.
And Steve, is that Steve? Noble?
No.
They have it.
I was wondering, I was like, his voice changed.
I'm sorry, Mohammed. Go ahead.
He's been in and out.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I see his face pop up on the screen.
I had that same problem when I was away and I was on, he was in and out, I could barely hear whatever he was saying. It was horrible.
He said the sound was breaking.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure how he's connected.
He did say that you so far, like, all of that sounded good to him.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, so we got a positive. So,
Is there anything that we haven't discussed so far that you wanted to?
I like the Walk with Ease program. I mean, it's not a lot of money. It seemed like that was a new program.
Mhm.
And I think, something more for our seniors is a good idea.
And I was thinking that about the Center for Creative Education, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I wondered, yeah, if that could be scaled down in some way, because it did seem to be a new program.
It did, but I didn't really get a lot of details on how they were gonna, I mean, reading their application, it's a beautiful vision, but I
Yes,
mean, it doesn't really say.
how they're gonna go from class to class.
Right, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how, what are the deliverables? You know,
I felt very strongly about CCE, the application. But I'll explain what. I think I would love for there to be a senior program at CCE. I think that would be awesome. I found their application to be absolutely full of background research about why this is valuable and why it's really good to have, multi-generational activities. You didn't have to convince me of it. However, there were no specifics. There was nothing about transportation. There was nothing about timing. There was nothing about the, even how the multi-generational interaction would be if it's just by habit, like by fact of having the program there because they're doing so much other programming or versus an integrated class or any kind of structure that I was able to see. And they haven't shown up to the meetings to ask questions. And so that's where I'm like, I want to support this so badly. And yet I feel really let down by the lack of information.
And this is good information for the future, what you're saying here too, in terms of just the specifics of what the program might be. But Mandy's going to say something.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna ask, not that we want to scream at each other, but he can't hear. So
Oh.
when one or two of you are talking loud enough, he can, but then he can't hear the rest of us. And he's like, I can hear you.
Got it.
So
Okay.
I did say
I
that.
bet you can hear me.
I'm not saying he can, he just said the sound's breaking up. And I do understand that when you're, in these meetings, and you're trying to listen on there, it's kind of hard to hear everything.
Yes.
I would love to see more, like, what they proposed, and the research is real, and the number of kids who would be so advantaged to have, somebody older in their lives would be phenomenal. But this application doesn't speak to how that's going to happen.
And I also want to stress, everybody was told about the meetings and everybody was asked to come to speak. And I made it very clear that if you don't come to speak, they don't understand completely what you might want to be getting across. So
I feel like CCE should reapply with this program when we have more information.
And I would second that.
I think it's great and I want to support it, but I feel like when we have so many programs that have detail, that have very clear objectives and a lot of concrete information, and also people are showing up to answer questions. I'm saying, like, please come back next year.
Right.
Yeah, it's just not for me this year.
And even if we cut it, I don't know like what their funding source is.
I think you're right, yeah.
And why
Let
would
them
we-
come back.
Full
next
funding
year.
would be 40% of the budget.
Okay, so, do you have anything else?
The one thing that I have, and it's hard because we talked about years of criteria. I think that read and write, I would feel good about funding it this year, and because it does, if we're going to try to meet that like say this is our criteria, and they've expanded because of the shift in COVID, but also saying like, okay, if we're going to come use this as a criteria, okay, well, next year, because there is a cap on how many people you can even have in that space, and that's what they're going to, it wouldn't be able to meet the criteria of expansion based on population.
Okay.
But I do feel like funding it would be great.
Well, we know Jeannie supports that. I would support it as long as, I think it's really, and I've been around, over the years with my little one, who's not so little anymore, to know what a great program it is. My concern is just like, how do we get you the help that you need to
I'll sit down with anybody who knows how to.
Do you fundraise or do any fundraising, or we can come back to you? with
I've
someone
done
to help with that?
fundraising before, but you gotta put out a lot of money to bring it, and it's a big risk, especially when we don't really get that much money,
Right.
you know?
So
But I will,
applying for grants would be, you know, like to really get proactive in applying for other grants also, like.
leaving.
If you put Jeannie on the case.
Yeah.
There we
I
go.
know, she really gives
There
me
you
some
go.
ideas. So,
She'll come up with a 10-point plan for it. So do we want to go ahead and fund, read and write?
And I think.
I would say that we funded this year with the understanding that the seed money period is over and now we need to see your program move on. And I'll also be willing to, Jeannie and I can meet with you and
You could
give
be
you
with
some
us,
suggestions.
Yeah, she's actually a rock star.
oh, really?
Tell her what you do.
I write grants for arts organizations
Oh, wow.
and manage our projects, so,
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
she's a pro.
What we could do is try to make an appointment
We'll make an appointment
and go
and
down and let her see, I know, you know, but the thing
But
is
just
that there has to be a cap on it, like, you know, that I totally agree with that, but I do, like, I went down there, you know, and I do my investigations and stuff, and I really believe, and as I agreed with everything that, you know, that was said, you know, we have to start looking at some of the, you know, new stuff, but how do you challenge stuff when you have children that can't read?
Well, I think that also we're trying to think about, so again, lots of good reasons, but we think about like, even though that is like really truly like the reason, if we just look at, okay, the definition, new programming or expanded programming. You have expanded programming based on the past few years of having to have about 40 kids in the space, now you are approved to have 10 again. And so this year it counts as expanded programming, but because you're capped at 110 in that space, it would be expanded based off of next year. And so you're gonna have to think about, are there other funding sources, right? Or another way of applying under the idea of expanded or new, right? And there, we kind of have a census and we have, you know, we have some integrity.
These will have to expand it, you know,
Yeah.
the wording in like the application. Because last time it was, like different things, new things that you're doing, that was considered what it.
That's part of the significant.
Right, so that, so
Yeah.
you know what's gonna be expected next year.
Yeah.
You're fully aware of
Yeah.
where you're gonna head, what you're
Right.
gonna do, and next year might not be as, you know,
It can prepare.
yes. And I feel that, yeah.
The kids that came to speak at the public hearing are really great.
They were wonderful, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, their nerves, they're still nervous.
Great job.
well, tell them they were good.
Like next year, are we gonna be looking at more money or less money?
Probably less. We get less every year.
Buy the Powerball, I'll donate
should be-
so you
yeah,
can have
we
more.
found that.
Donate some money at least.
Sorry,
There was one year where.
We heard you
got
say
that.
that's because
And I stick to my word.
but we haven't made time on this in several years, so there's a good chance that they could cut us.
Okay.
They could cut us.
Sure, we haven't made time on this. Several years.
And is there a trend on who we are not making timeliness with?
Mhm.
What is the trend?
Mostly the city activities.
So most of the city activities we're not making timeliness. Okay, so that's really important information.
Well, it's got to do with their infrastructure and when they can go out to bid and when they can break ground and
Okay,
there's
right.
Right.
It's,
consultants. in
the
place.
problem
long
is you
process.
can have a project and it's 3 years before you hit, a
Yeah.
shovel hits the dirt.
Yeah. And so that becomes a problem if we're using HUD funds for anything that is a city activity because it jeopardizes our ability to disperse funds to other groups.
So in the past.
Is what it sounds like.
In the past, we've had people that come and ask for money who, at the end of the day, weren't able to use it, so they weren't able to complete their activity. So then that money sits there.
Mhm.
And then when it gets to be a certain amount of money, then there has to be a substantial amendment done. So you go through the process of the public hearing and where the allocations go. And because there was so much money sitting there, and when the sewer projects came about, Rita had fought to have, money put into that project.
Right, I remember.
So they're still, working from street to street. And it kind of helps with, it's a small amount when you think about how much the city has to bond for such a project. But that's why the city now only funds city projects, capital projects, as
Right.
opposed to
I agree.
people who come to us for, a roof on their building or whatever. So,
Yeah, infrastructure is serious. You have to take care of it. That when it breaks down, it affects everybody.
so they're just doing the program now, which is the 15%, and unfortunately, it's a very small amount, but it's what it is. And the city could also say, we're not gonna do that, we're just gonna keep it all for ourselves, but they don't. They,
Okay,
try to.
got it.
I also have a lot of people who have not used their 2023 money yet.
Okay.
But they look at it like, well, I have until the end of the year, which is true. But my thought is, if you come to us because you need the money, you mean to tell me you can go all year and not have to ask for a reimbursement.
It also has to do with when they're receiving other funds, because if they
Yes.
don't have funding to start to do the reimbursement, they're gonna have to wait until they receive perhaps another grant cycle to be able to.
Paperwork is just.
Reimbursement grants are
it is
very hard because you have to
so
get the money
much
to lay
work.
out first.
I just received a small grant pre-COVID from the city to do some programming over at Ask. And Amy was great, and I got really, I got some insight on what, and my program was like this small, of what we have to do when we're giving the paperwork and when we're in the reimbursement structure.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's
And,
a lot.
when many nonprofits, especially for these programs that we're funding, I mean, these are, in many cases, like, they don't have a huge bureaucratic infrastructure to assist with the paperwork part of it. So, the capacity of to do it is
Yeah.
huge. Okay, so I'm sorry, I cut you off before when you were talking about walk with ease.
Yes. Yeah, because then we jumped to CCE, so I just think it's a small amount where it targets, the senior population. It was open to non-members of the Y.
How are we gonna promote it? Is like one of the questions in my
How they promote anything else, I see all that stuff, I don't know.
I see all their stuff too. I think they have a
Yeah.
pretty big email
Yeah.
list.
Email and also a lot on Instagram too.
Yeah.
Right.
We're just not on social
I'm not on social
When we had the COVID funding, we did another senior program for them also. And there's not a lot of senior programs that we fund.
Yeah.
So,
And it's only 2,000, the ask is only
It's
$2,552.
Yeah.
All right, are we all in agreement
I
to
would go with
support YMCA Walk with Ease?
Yeah.
Steve, you on board?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
Mohammed?
Good, yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right, so now
What do we
you
do
have
with
the
the balance?
unfortunate, there's a balance.
How much is the balance?
$2,600 basically.
So
It's not enough to fund anything.
Either you guys decide that you're funding everybody at their full ask, or you need to start moving some numbers. This is where it gets ugly.
Well, is that
What
what
do
we
you-
want to then? We already talked about maybe cutting UIPN.
Yeah.
Maybe then.
So you're talking about maybe cutting that so that it can be added to the 2,600 to get to something, to give to something else.
So
We can look
the
numbers if you.
Raula's kids, we had an application, we didn't actually have anybody present on that.
Nothing,
I'm
So that one is, I'm a little in the dark on that. I'm sort of in the dark on the Center for Creative Education, and I would not feel comfortable funding it at this point.
Right.
I'm also
Um,
not sure if Rose had an actual location. I think
They
it's
did
just-
not yet have.
No.
one.
It's in my
They were
office, but-
thinking Old Dutch Church,
Okay.
but I don't think that was confirmed.
Sorry, Jen.
So for the summer,
UConn.
the X1 program, what is the, like, you need the entire amount or the project is not happening? Or like, do you have any other, like, what is your contingency plan to fund this program?
I mean, again, as I mentioned, I'm in the same boat of just trying to, raise funds, whether they're private or through grants. So I'm certainly doing that for all of my programming. This one was especially kind of near and dear to my heart. One of the things I did just look at my numbers, just to be clear, like it wasn't going to be 9 kids just for a whole summer. Like at the end of the summer, the program could service up to 180 kids. It would just make a difference if, some of them wanted to come in for multiple weeks. I like to allow that because, again, that gives them the immersive experience, that gets them a little bit more involved. But if it's just kind of circling kids through, the number is different. So I just didn't want to leave you with that. I was asking for that money to do 9 kids.
I'd like to see these two hook up and you read a book and you ride a horse.
Well, I mean,
That's-
that's the reason I've been talking about working. So maybe that's something, and again, I don't want to take the floor here, but, could there be a provision, or I'm getting ready to work with Center for Creative Education, like, if you knew that, like, the horses were coming to be companions for the senior program, I mean, that could maybe strengthen their grant, and then give me something that's in alignment with what my organization does, So it would be nice, Teresa, if we could all figure out a way, or maybe you guys could help give us a way to start partnering on some of this. I asked the city of Kingston, they want me to do their summer program, and then they say that they can't afford it, and I'm like, well, why couldn't I be written into their ask for their summer program?
Well, the thing that you're bringing up is exactly why it's so valuable that you're in this room right now, because, what we've even talked about, a few of us, we'll see what ends will get exciting, right? But like, people have discussed about like CCE and wanting to see a little bit more like meat in that application. And you have a very clear, plan for your program. Well, then, maybe it is that, you find like, okay, well, this is a way we can create something for, the next grant cycle. I mean, that's the value of you being here. And
No, it's.
And the discussion.
Like I said, this has been really wonderful, and I appreciate it.
thanks for being here and doing what you're doing, So I think that's where it really falls, where it's like, okay, it might not carry into this year, but it will carry forward, especially considering there's so many folks that really are committed, as we see them every year, are so very deeply committed to serving this community.
So if we cut,
But is there this program never gives more money. In other words, it's like $2,000 to distribute it equally across. That never happens.
What if we took, shaved 10,000 off the food assistant for immigrants?
Yeah.
And moved that into, along with the $2,618 for the summer equine program?
I think that should work, no?
Or it's very close to what the original ask was, but I mean, can you do it without the original ask?
If we're talking about 12 and change versus 13 and change, I absolutely would make it happen.
Is that something?
Yeah, that's
And I
a
don't,
lot.
I mean, I'm just proposing it. I'm not-
So, Sarah, if we were to get more, we just based on a guesstimate. We never guessed that we're gonna get higher because that's not gonna happen.
Got it.
So we every year is basically based on what we've had the year before. If by chance we get more money, then what we do is the portion of the 15%, we could either make it so that the asks were made whole, or percentage goes across for the 5 or 6 that you, or how many other, 4, 5, 6, 7 that you're, decided that you're gonna fund.
Right, depending upon, because you don't know what the exact amount of money is.
You won't
yet.
know until May.
Right.
One thing I just wanted to chime in with is I did just revisiting Lola's kids, again, really clear plan. Serving 40 children and involving Metro Maine for free transportation. So potentially giving, if there is extra, giving some to them.
To who, I mean,
Bruno's kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's everybody?
I think the question was, it was hard for me to tell what group they were going to be serving exactly, and also the location. That was the thing that was confusing, because
It was a concern.
it was a concern about not having a location, and that's one of the one of the criteria for
Because we
this.
don't necessarily want to tie up the money and
Yeah,
then not have them
exactly.
able to expend it.
Yeah, the site, I guess, if it's about the site, then then
Yeah.
we don't have the site.
We don't understand that, yeah.
and then once you contact them.
But it wasn't,
talk to them,
I agree, it was.
It was a strong application, but there's next year.
It's
Yeah.
next year,
Come back.
when they're more focused on where, when,
Because the program, I think, it sounds so very clear and,
They don't have a definite. They say it's either gonna take place in private office or the old Dutch church, but they don't have a clear place. And then private office, I mean,
Where is
Old
that?
Dutch Church is in the city of Kingston, but they're based out of
Portland.
Spokane.
Right, that's right,
So I'm not really sure where the private office is.
right.
yeah, the rental space or whatnot. So, yeah, okay, I get it, I'm caught up. I mean, I heard it, but I just needed to hear it again.
I mean, it sounds, as we said, all of these programs sound terrific.
That's
It's
very
just-
true, that's very true.
And we would fund them all if the money were there.
Easy.
Does anybody else have, we don't have any money left to spend.
I'm good with
I
this.
think we're like on solid ground here. Consensus.
Steve?
Steve, I know you still can't see anything.
I want to make sure I'm clear on what we're plan is here. The plan is to take money away from the Immigrant Defense Network and give it to Sunrays, is that it?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have your spreadsheet in front of you?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so on the recommendations from the committee, Boys and Girls Club, they're saying 14,280. Center for Holographic Arts is 16,050.
Okay,
Center for Photography at Woodstock is 10,000.
okay,
Point God Academy is 15,000.
okay,
Read and Write is 12,000.
okay,
Sunrays is 12,618.
okay,
Ulster Immigrant Defense Network is 15,000.
okay,
And then the YMCA Walk with Ease is 2552.
okay,
I think those.
all right. Okay, yes, all right. That's not what I was hearing, so I'm glad you cleared that up.
Okay, is there anything that you wanted to question or ask about? I mean, because you're not here, we can't see you.
No, I think hopefully I'm hearing everything that's going on, as I hear it. I guess I could be wrong, but everything sounds good to me at this point. This looks good.
Okay. Mohammed, do you have anything to add? Where'd he go? He's still there, though. I see him. Might not be able to.
No, I don't have anything other than.
Okay. Everybody's comfortable with this?
Yeah.
I will send these to the mayor. And
Thank you, everyone.
I'm sure it'll be discussed at the next meeting for the common council.
Yes, I don't want anyone to leave here thinking that this is how it's gonna look in the end, because, the mayor's, gets to make the final say and often does.
So I made notes that I share with him, because we'll meet, and then he'll sit and watch the video, so that he can hear.
So he'll hear the
he's not
commentary,
there.
okay.
So he'll sit and watch it, so that he can actually.
And I really appreciate you guys for wanting to work and help some of these groups.
Oh, yeah, we don't, I don't,
You know how to throw a fundraiser like that.
I'll throw a fundraiser in a minute.
I would love to be part of some of that.
Well, I'm gonna clean it. I didn't mean to make you, I didn't mean to make you feel bad, because I'm not but I am a straightforward person, and I worked with horses, and I understand the whole,
They have the
yes, the whole thing. But, you know, when you put a horse up against a child, I put my feet in there, because
Okay, so I'm just gonna end the report.
Yeah.
Okay, so great.
I think it's a great thing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.